Hello there, yes, well, ooh, couple of days and I'll be on holes. Yeah, rather nice, rather looking forward to that, and I don't know, you may or may not be. I don't really care. Anyway, usual Sunday politics things, perhaps the inevitable reform, people being interviewed on the BBC, Nigel, necessarily, because we can't possibly interview anyone else, because we have to, well, when we can't interview a Tory, we need to interview the upcoming Tory party, and it was intriguing to see him suggesting he was going to 50% nationalise the water industry in this country, because that will definitely solve everything by things and yes, making capitalism work by just appointing the right people into the right place. You can see how that would work. I felt much the same way about Stalin during the 30s and 40s. I mean, you know, some of those people in the NKVD got totally carried away, didn't they? Eh? Cool. It would have been so much better if we just had the right Secret Service people under Beria, who, let's face it, was a bit misunderstood. His heart was in the right place. Anyway, speaking of such nonsense, we did have various patriots out at the weekend to inform me about how much I need to support Israel, which is a bit of a strange view. Had this from Zoe Strimple. I don't know if she's been to Waitrose. We can only but pray. It is Britain's utter disgrace that wearing the Union flag has become the ultimate taboo. Yes, the ultimate taboo. Look at me. Yes, ultimate taboo. Yes. What happened to Courtney Wright is a microcosm of what's happening in this country's, of what's been happening in this country's wider culture for years. Yes, absolutely. Because people like me hate the Union flag. Yeah, I don't call it a Union Jack. I know there's been a debate about that. But whenever I call it a Union Jack, some little delightful person likes to tell me that I'm wrong. And I can't be bothered with those things. I can't be bothered with that level of petty-mindedness. Dear God, can we move on from that? Anyway, yes. But the thing about me, you see, is I want to own these things. After all, it's my country and my heritage. Not Zoe's, because I don't actually own allegiance to any other country, unlike Zoe, who seems to be very, very keen on other places and overseas, which obviously for migrants is bad. They need to, you know, integrate into the country that they're in, which she does partially well. Anyway, on a very similar vein was the inevitable Stephen Daisley, who is a man that is, what's the word I'm after? Deeply unpleasant. Yes, in so many different ways. But this one, the Palestine Action protest revealed Britain's spiritual sickness. Yes, all other foreign conflicts have been pushed aside. Gaza is the new unifying issue of our politics. Yes, indeed, you see, because myself as a left-winger need not be concerned about what's going on in Gaza until I've been concerned about every other thing that Stephen decides I need to be concerned about. We'll come on to that in a little bit, right? I have to weigh up the pros and cons of each and every individual conflict that is going on around the world, and once I've done that and made suitable comments about all of them, I can then theoretically, no I can't, obviously not because that's a lie, make comments about Gaza. But it's worthwhile a little bit unpacking what the delightful, gorgeous and pouting Stephen had to say. First up, right, okay, Palestine Action, of course, are very bad people, all of them. They're not doing anything, you know, they're not doing anything because of any moral sense. They're doing them because they're bad. And at the same time, one has to ask exactly why it was that Palestine Action were lumped in with other terrorist groups. Could it be the nefarious influence of Israel? Well, according to Stephen, not. It is doubtful if Israel will think at all about crowds taking to Britain's streets to demand the unbanning of prescribed terror organisation Palestine Action. Reports of some protesters chanting flow, I don't know, something, your Jewish state are unlikely to give anyone in Jerusalem much pause. Such scenes will be regarded as a matter of private grief not to be intruded upon. Yes, I know, which is even more patronising than I am. But of course, the reason why Palestine Action has been prescribed in this country is exactly because the Israeli state wants it to be, because various Israeli defence contractors that Palestine Action were targeting don't really want to have to deal with that, and therefore they've got their friends in the Labour Party to make sure that these things have happened. Why else has it happened? you can think of no other reason, can you? Yes. So in other words, yes, they are very, very concerned. They are actually very, very concerned about what you think. They might not, in Stephen's world, be concerned about what I think, but they are certainly concerned about what you think. It's vitally important to listen to Stephen rather than bad people like me. For all that, Palestine Action's criminal campaign of thuggery and intimidation is directed at the state of Israel, and specifically its ability to defend itself. It's not Israel that needs to worry about Saturday's events. Israel can take care of itself, but can the UK? Yes. Except, of course, Israel can't take care of itself, because without a very, very, very and continuous generous supply of American arms, it wouldn't be able to do anything. And indeed, without a nice helping hand from RAF pilots on various occasions, there will be a lot more explosions in Tel Aviv. Still, I'm sure Stephen knows more about that than I don't. Because these protests portend nothing good for Britain. Recall that Palestine Action is not merely anti-Israel. This is an organisation that openly, proudly targets British companies for vandalism and destruction. That uses criminal conduct to terrorise British business owners into changing their commercial relationships. An organisation whose activities have breached a military base and damaged RAF planes. Yes, indeed, except of course those particular British companies are ones that, are Israeli owned, so I'm not entirely sure what Stephen means by British. Perhaps he could ask Zoe, because these things are often very nebulous, aren't they? Yes. And indeed, the whole thing about breaching the RAF, well, I don't know. There is a moral imposition on people when something is appalling and wrong to do something about it. And the RAF, if they are complicit in Israel's Gaza campaign, if I can use that generic phrase without the actual G word, themselves should be targeted by any moral-minded citizen, surely. But no, not in Stephen's world, and the reason is because Stephen is paid to come out with right-wing cant on a regular basis, and he does it very well, and it involves no brain cells upon his part. It merely involves the deep desire to stop anyone else from thinking. And you can read the articles, the comments underneath his article. They're all about the idea from people in the home counties, the usual home counties fascists, that the real issue in the world is people like me who have opinions which are contrary to their own, and somehow, somewhere along the line, I need to be arrested for terrorism as well, and I think I should be. Yes, I think I should be thrown into a police cell. That way we'd all be safe, wouldn't we? And that way they can really, really, really convince themselves that they are that bloke in the photograph that didn't do the Nazi salute, because that's the perfect analogy to that one. And in the "you can't make this stuff up" corner, I even further, my lord, I give you Jake Wallace-Simons. I can't bear these videos of the growing Druze genocide. Yes, you see, Jake can use that word about other people, but oddly, he's incapable of applying it to other situations. Odd that I have to apply these things to other situations, but he doesn't. Yes. Imagine that. Imagine being upset at seeing videos about people being killed. Imagine being Jake and the utter horror of realising that there are immoral armies in the world. And that got me thinking about, the Druze and how much they've probably been asking for it, and how much the attacks on them are probably by the second most moral army in the world, maybe. I don't know. How utterly ironic it would be to see Jake and someone from those armed forces having a discussion whereby Jake has to be the one that gets very upset about the notions of innocent people being killed. But of course he wouldn't do that, because again, that isn't the game that's being played. The game that's being played is, of course, that we have to support our friends in Israel. I don't have any friends in Israel, and I don't believe that realistically anyone, or very many people in the UK do. Not friendship as it should be, which is a mutual level of assistance. We have a government that has been completely captured by such interests, and yet at the same time I'm supposed to be quite worried about Jeremy Corbyn. I'm not really. Still, I can always wrap myself in the flag, can't I? The last refuge of the scoundrels. Scoundrel. Anyway, do have a glorious day. Do stay dry if it's damp, and do stay damp if it's dry. Enjoy. Nearly there.